are listening to Travel with the Backpacking Housewife podcast. I'm your host, Janice Horton. Welcome to episode 4, in which I'd like to ask you the question, do you have Wandermust? Because if, like me, you've never thought that a 2-week holiday was long enough, and the concept of travel means more to you now than it ever did before lockdown, and you are now more than ready to travel again in order to reinvigorate your outlook on life, then I believe your wanderlust might have shifted up a gear into Wandermust. Looking back to the time before I was the backpacking housewife and just a normal housewife, I realised that I'd always prioritised travel over many other material aspects of our life as a family. Luckily, my husband felt the same way, and together we both worked hard to pay the bills and to bring up our 3 children, and we both thought it was really important to take them on a 2-week holiday once a year in the summertime. When our boys were small, and for context they are now aged 31, 29 and 27, we took advantage of booking early bird package deals to get the best kids' prices. And holidays to Florida were always good value back then. For several years, kids under 12 years old travelled for about £99 with a fare-paying adult. And for several years we flew into Sanford or Orlando for a week spent having fun on iDrive before heading over to the Space Coast or across to Tampa, Sarasota, Clearwater Beach or St. Pete's, all those gorgeous sunny spots on the sunny Gulf Coast, and have fabulous memories of endless roller coasters, sunshine and beaches and crab shacks. I do remember how on holidays to the USA, and particularly Florida, we never took the free car included in the package because we thought the insurance was too expensive. So taking the public bus rather than paying extra per person for the tourist transit coach out of the airport also saved money. Money that could be spent on park tickets. In the US, our preteen kids ate free at all-you-could-eat diners, and back then the UK pound was really strong against the US dollar. Granted, it got a lot more costly when they got to be teenagers, so we had to get even more savvy then and find other travel hacks to exploit. One year in Orlando, we took advantage of a credit card deal to pay for our park passes, which meant we'd buy 2 and get 1 free. We bought annual passes for a water park on iDrive because it was the same price as just a few visits, which meant that when we headed back to Orlando 2 weeks earlier the next year, we could use them again. We also took holidays in other long-haul destinations, and we'd most often book these independently, so by the time our boys went off to university, it's safe to say that they were well-travelled and also travel-savvy. But please understand it's not that we were ever particularly wealthy. We just simply prioritised money for travel over other things. For example, it took us about 10 years to renovate our home when I'm sure anyone else could have done it in 6 months. I will admit that many of our friends and family didn't get our compulsion to travel or our feelings of wandermust. So 7 years ago, finding ourselves with an empty nest, it wasn't really a surprise to us or to our boys when we decided that we'd sell our home, our business and our cars and all our belongings in exchange for a pot of capital and 2 backpacks. And we still have to travel economically and in economy and to a tight budget so that we can sustain travel for longer. It's worked out well for us so far. We've travelled around the whole world twice, had amazing experiences and met so many lovely people while exploring 56 countries. Well, that was until 2020 came along. So in having to return to our homeland in 2020 and quickly find somewhere to live, do we now have regrets? No, absolutely none. Do we still have our inherent wandermust? Oh, absolutely yes. In fact, taking travel away from us has only heightened our longing to explore and to have adventures abroad, and the big news is that more people now feel the same way. I saw Elle magazine has been looking into travel trends in the new future. Expect to see a heightened thirst for travel in 2021, with people wanting to do, see and experience more. We're starting to get itchy feet. And think of all the possibilities that might be afforded to us if we can embrace travel once again once the pandemic's threat is reduced. Their report also tells us that almost all of us have been spending much of our free time recently looking for destination inspiration, with over a third of us looking at potential destinations as often as once a week. So you might have noticed, while gazing wistfully at the photos of palm trees and pools and beaches online and in magazines, that travel industry agents and the travel watching media, while taking into account current safety and travel advice, are all hot on the topic of advising us on the best places to travel to in 2021. It's encouraging and it's exciting, but what exactly does it all mean? What is the new future going to look like? And how does it fit in with our dreams of tropical beaches and sun-drenched places and our plans to spend our future winters in warmer climes? I believe that it means a seismic shift is about to happen in travel. Why? Because travel planning is trending right now across all age groups. The travel industry is buzzing with words for the new future. Mindful and sustainable and slow travel will create our new normal. And that's why here at the Backpacking Housewife podcast and on my website at thebackpackinghousewife.com, I'm looking into the crystal ball of travel trends and hoping to inspire you to adopt this new movement while you initiate your own new future and your travel itineraries of travel and adventures. Forbes magazine predicts that many of us are wanting to make up for lost time and travel as soon as it's safe to do so. But who these days has time to take mindful, sustainable, and slow travel trips? The under 45s have school-aged children and family commitments that don't blend so well with taking extended trips. But the booking platform Get Your Guide says that the under 45s intend to take more holidays in future. They're planning to use their travel vouchers to rebook trips in 2021 and to make up for any missed celebrations that were forced to cancel during the coronavirus pandemic. Short haul and other domestic holidays with green credentials will also be popular with this age group. The over 45s are eager to resume travelling too, with annual work leave being rolled over, and travel companies are reporting how more people in this age group than ever before are booking holidays for longer than the usual 2 weeks. The over 45s are now considering the merits of being location independent and working as digital nomads, with a huge rise in those planning a workcation, which involves relocating for weeks or even months at a time in order to work remotely while living abroad. In the over 50s, according to a survey by Prudential via Wise Living magazine, the majority of over 50s now have bucket lists. Adventure holidays, luxury holidays, cycling and walking, solo travel, and escorted tours are all very popular with this age group. So unsurprisingly, travel agents are reporting a steep rise in those planning bucket list trips. And according to Age Partnership research, 53% of over 50s cite travel as their number one aspiration. And seeing the Northern Lights is the most popular, followed by bucket list holiday ideas such as driving Route 66 in the US. And one adventurer soon to be retired has set his sights on base camp at Mount Everest. Of the over 55s, older travellers are even more keen to get back to travelling. Many are looking into and considering taking early retirement or planning for their retirement, and 90% of the over 55s have written a bucket list too. And it's this age group who suddenly find themselves with an empty nest, who may now have the freedom and resources to travel more often and for much longer. And this is why slow travel is booming amongst the baby boomers. The concept of slow travel means taking longer trips and staying in your chosen location for longer, and soaking in your environment rather than rushing through it, according to ABTA, who are the leading trade association for travel agents and tour operators. Their survey indicates that slow travel will top the pile for travel trends in the future. Is slow travel therefore kinder to the environment? Researchers agree that the further you travel, then the longer you should stay in a place, if you're considering the CO2 emissions released by the plane that flew you there. Skyscanner website goes further by stating that many airlines are opting to fly their newer aircraft, which are often far more fuel efficient. Want the most eco-friendly flight? Then look for the greener choice option whenever you search. Local sustainable travel means being mindful of local culture and respectful of the local history and people and the environment. Taking your rubbish away with you, spending money locally to support local people and small businesses, using Get Your Guide to find reliable local guides. Those over 65 are typically now looking to spend their retirement and their resources on travel and new experiences, according to the article entitled Travel's New Normal by Get Your Guide. The over 65s are even more eager to get back to travel than the typically wanderlust-driven millenniums, and where they go and what activities they'll choose and what types of vacations they envisage are quite different from 6 months ago. So it seems the new future of travel fits well with all wandermusters in all age groups. And the good news is that middle-aged and older travellers are being seen as the keenest of all to throw off the shackles of a more sedentary lifestyle in favour of travel, adventure and new experiences. As I'm middle-aged myself, I'm certainly an example of that trend. And I want you to know it's absolutely possible to travel more and to enrich your later life with travel experiences and to live the life of your dreams. Throughout my website at thebackpackinghousewife.com and through this podcast, I can show you how we did it and how you might do it too, if that's your goal. But of course, your situation might be very different to ours. You might not need or want to sell everything you own like we did. You might just downscale in order to travel more in later life. If you haven't quite reached that stage yet, then you might just want to arrange a 6-month sabbatical from work to travel. You might want to travel as a couple, or you might be travelling solo. Perhaps you're trying to work out how you can travel and work remotely as a digital nomad. You might take early retirement, or have reached retirement age and want to tick off your bucket list. You might rent out your home in order to fund your travels and return to it later. You might get house sitters in to look after your home and pets while you travel for a while. Your idea of travel might involve shiny suitcases rather than backpacks, and that's perfectly okay too. Because there are lots and lots of ways to travel, and I'm going to explore them all with you through my website at thebackpackinghousewife.com and through this podcast, and together we can talk about the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, your concerns and your expectations. That's if, like me, you never did think that a 2-week holiday was long enough. Let me know if you have a bucket list and if your wanderlust has shifted up a gear into Wandermust. I'd love to hear from you because my podcasts are totally focused on not only inspiring you to achieve your own travel dreams in your midlife and beyond, but also answering all your travel questions. Email me through my Contact Me page on my website or get in touch through my social media channels. I'm on Facebook as The Backpacking Housewife. I'm on Instagram as Janice Horton Writer. And if you're on Twitter, then please do tweet me your travel goals and your travel questions at Janice Horton, JANICEHORTON. And come and travel with me here on Travel with the Backpacking Housewife podcast. Subscribe and follow for inspiring and informative new episodes each week, in which I'll be discussing ways to plan for and to prioritise travel in our lives and in our new future, in what is set to become a new and golden age of travel.